All right, welcome back. Let's start with the minimum wage issue. I remember that has been a very, very, very thorny issue between the federal government and, of course, organized labor. Eventually ended at government agreeing to pay, of course, to the private sector involved as well. It was a tripartite agreement, 70,000 naira as the bottom, more like the minimum for the average or lowest level worker in the public service and even in private sector as well, for those who can afford to pay. So it's now a law, and the government had promised on May the 1st, which is Workers' Day, that they will, backdate and pay from there. But Labour is saying it even goes further back. But now we're seeing states adopting 85,000, 80,000, and even 70+ thousand naira. That's why we're bringing to the fore this conversation to find out what is going on with the implementation. Has any state started paying, not just making pronouncement and all of that? We're joined on the program by Comrade Sahid Yinka, is the chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress in Kwara State. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. Also joining us is Chigemezu Nwigu, chairman NLC Imo State chapter, both joining us via Zoom. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
The anchor of the program. I'm Comrade Murtala Said Olanka, Kwara State chairman, Nigeria Labour Congress.
All right, let me start with you, Mr. Yinka, on this particular one. I'm starting with you because your governor, the governor of the state, is the chairman of the Nigeria's Governors Forum. So, basic question, let's get this out of the way. How much is Kwara State paying? Have they started paying? Is the payment backdated? What exactly is going on? Just give us just an overview of what is going on with this agreement.
Kwara State government will commence the payment this very month of October. And the agreement on our negotiation is 70,500.
Okay, so when you say start paying in October, the minimum wage agreements, I'm sure it's backdated because the federal government had promised. I remember the Minister of Labour and Employment, while negotiations were going on, said it will be from May. Is that what is going to happen? Are they going to pay the arrears? I just wanted to help us paint that picture.
Actually, at our negotiation point, we demanded for arrears to be paid because of the challenges that the Nigerian workers are facing. But to our dismay, the co-chairman of the committee, who is the main commissioner for finance in Kwara State, lamented that they have no means of doing that, that it is better we join by payment this very month of October. Though the argument is still ongoing because we cannot accept that. We have to have the arrears paid by the government of Kwara State.
All right, let me take it to, I'll come back to you, Mr. Said. Let's go to Mr. Nwigu. Mr. Nwigu, if you can hear me, I want to pose the same question to you as to whether payment has commenced or is about to commence, and are they going to pay the arrears as well?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Comrade Uche Chigemezu Nwigu. I'm the state chairperson in Imo State Council. Like you rightly asked, here in Imo, know that the minimum wage was signed into law on July 29th, and the state councils were asked to go back and domesticate it in their respective states. Here in Imo State, we have written to the state government, and immediately the governor called for us to have a meeting with him, which lasted for over 1 hour, where he agreed, accepted that he's going to implement the 70,000 minimum wage here in Imo State. Went further to do a nomination by writing to the government, sending the team for negotiation. In that meeting, the governor appealed to us that we should give him within a week or 2 weeks because he's traveling, so that they can now give approval to the team from the government side for us to renegotiate and then make sure that the minimum wage is domesticated here in Imo State. Like you rightly asked, the issue of implementation is something that you need to sit down and discuss and agree on some certain terms, mainly on the arrears and then the modalities of implementation. Remember, it was signed into law on the 29th of May. It means that as soon as we start payment, arrears will be considered. And this is part of the things we are going to negotiate with the state government so that we can be in line with them. And I'm aware that the governor told us that he will not fail to implement it as the chairman of Governors Forum and is part of the negotiating team. So he assured us that there's nothing will stop him from implementing. Yes, we have had some state governments making some pronouncement. I believe as soon as we start negotiation here in Imo, definitely will come out of. And they assured us in our discussion that the negotiation will last within 2 or 3 sittings, or at most 3 sittings, which I know within a day or 2 or 3 will conclude and then implementation. Also, he assured us in that meeting that before the end of this month, that Imo will be part of the people that will also domesticate the implementation of the 70,000 minimum wage and its consequential adjustment, which is most important. So that is the procedure and the process we have taken here in Imo State.
Ahead of these negotiations, there were concerns that some states were even yet to implement the 30,000 naira minimum wage. And there are current reports even now that for some category of workers, I believe the NUT, for instance, there were 12 states where those category of workers were yet to benefit from the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Now, I wonder if Kwara and Imo states are involved. So give us a sense of what exactly is happening as far as that is concerned, as you await the 70,000 naira minimum wage. Are there any concerns in these 2 states as far as the 30,000 naira minimum wage is concerned? And I'm starting with you, Comrade Muritala.
Thank you very much. Kwara State is a peculiar state and it's a unique state. We always abide by the system, especially the enactment law in the country. We are far from some of those states you are mentioning. Once a pronouncement is made by the federal government, we always make sure we work assiduously to be among the committee of the states who are to implement the current minimum wage. So Kwara State, we immediately, the 30,000 minimum wage was put into law. Our leadership in the labor sector, we sit down and we try to negotiate with the government, and none of any sector in the state that is not benefiting from 30,000 minimum wage. And as I'm speaking to you right now, the 70,000 minimum wage is to commence this very month of October, and no sector will be eluded or be sidelined from this benefit.
So before I go to Comrade Nwigwe, very quickly, is that satisfactory, the implementation date of October for the 70,000 naira minimum wage? Is it satisfactory for all category of workers in Kwara State? Because the minimum wage is supposed to have been effective from, I believe, April or May.
I think I've said that from the question asked from the first speaker. It is not satisfactory by any of us. That is why we demanded for the payment of arrears, of which we believe something better will come out of it.
All right, Comrade Nwigwe, to you now, over to you now. Give us an update on whether or not the state government had complied with the old minimum wage of 30,000 naira for all category of workers.
Yes, when I come on board as the NLC chairman in Imo State, my predecessors, I had to get a report from them, and I was told that the minimum wage was something that was implemented here in Imo State. But I think from my investigation, what was not too clear for me, which I have engaged the government on, was the consequential adjustment, which I was told that was implemented, but I'm yet to get the clear information to that effect. My predecessor also told me that it was properly done, which I'm yet to get the proper report from him. But on the issue of the implementation of the 30,000 and the workers, how they are going to feel. Yes, as soon as we are done with the meeting with the government, on last Friday, we had to call for workers' address, give them address on the situation and the discussion we have already had with the government. And that assurance was given to them, and I'm telling you, confirming to you, that workers are very happy. And they are impressed that we are going to have the minimum wage 70,000 domesticate here in the Imo State, including its consequential adjustment. That is most important because the 70,000 was for level 1, step 1, which I doubt if there's any worker in Nigeria, both in the private or public sector, that's still on that cadre. Most important on it is the consequential adjustment, which I believe starts from level 1, step 2, and then to the last grade, which is most important to all workers of.
You know, Comrade Nwigwe, this question is particularly important for Imo State because Imo State is listed amongst the 15 states that is yet to implement the 30,000 naira minimum wage. And during that spat between the NLC chairman at the national level and the Imo State governor, the governor had said repeatedly that his administration is not owing workers, that all workers have been paid, and in fact, all backlog of arrears in terms of pensions have also been paid. So what is your investigation showing as far as that is concerned?
Yes, as soon as I came on board, like I told you, that information was what I sought for because in Nigeria, everybody knew what happened last, and then that face-off between the national leadership of NLC and Imo State, which for me is very particular. And I had to go into in-depth investigation, find out actually what was the true position. I came to understand that the information that was passing out then was not too clear. Some persons were trying to be very personal about it. So my investigation, and from the data we have gotten from the leadership as at then, was to show us that the implementation of the minimum wage of 30,000 was here in Imo. But the issue was on the consequential adjustment, which was not properly spelled out. And we have already gone into discussion with the government. I want to tell you that that matter has almost been resolved immediately I came on board.
So let's just give us a categorical answer. Were they paying the 30,000, and as when due? Is anybody being owed the 30,000 besides the consequential adjustment? That's a straight answer we would like to get from you.
As a president, nobody in Imo that is not enjoying the 30,000 minimum wage. Right?
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Uche Nekwe, who is the head international relations of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Joins us via Zoom. Mr. Ekwe, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've been listening to your comrades at the state level who have given their take as to what is going on. Some are telling us that the governors will start paying at the end of this month, and they're also having to talk about the issue of consequential adjustments and all of that intricacy. So at the national level, what's the update you have for us as far as the implementation of the minimum wage is concerned?
Yeah, thank you very much. We take that a state for us have agreed on the minimum wage. When negotiations have been finished and agreements signed with the salary table, that is when you can say, yes, now state A or B have agreed on the new minimum wage, because those table which deals with the consequential adjustment is very clear in the implementation of the minimum wage. Usually the contestation is not, because you can find many states that was required in the last minimum wage who will say, because the law have said 30,000, so they just pay 30,000 to the lowest rung of workers. But a proper and full implementation of the minimum wage is the paying of the new minimum wage with the required and consequential adjustment that have been done. Having given that clarification, a number of states have gone through that and signed agreements. States like Delta State, Lagos State, Kebbi State, and quite a few other states. Kebbi State is the state we are sure that the workers will start receiving their salary today with the new minimum wage and the consequential adjustment.
So I wanted to find out as well, because we spoke to this chairman of at the state level, for the federal civil service, are there any issues? And I also want to bring to the fore the issue of the arrears, because I try to bring to the fore the fact that the federal government has said, look, from May, we will start paying. I know when I spoke to the NLC president, George Jero, he had talked about it was supposed to even be backdated further. So what is it with that? Are the arrears going to be paid? Has it started being paid? Let's just get a clear picture.
Yeah. Like you said, the last minimum wage expired on 18th of April. That was when the last minimum wage expired. Consequently, that means the minimum wage arrears is supposed to be by the government. We reach like a compromise position that it will start and make at the federal level. Now, that should be the position in the states, that the arrears will start. And that is why we are keen in making sure that all the states finish their negotiation and sign agreement. Because usually the longer you delay, the bigger the arrears period will span, and therefore start creating friction and tension. So our key interest now, of course, is that states should conclude the minimum wage negotiation, which includes the constitutional adjustment, and sign. Because the earlier you do, the more it reduces the period of arrears. And of course, we expect some states to agree on how the arrears should be paid. Is it going to be paid in lump sum immediately, or is it going to be spread across, like, say, 1-2 months?
So, Comrade Ekwe, it's interesting when you look at some of the list of some of the states that have approved the 70,000 naira minimum wage. Some have, in fact, approved a little above 70,000 naira. Ogun State, for instance, reports say Ogun State has agreed to pay 77,000 naira. Kogi State has agreed to pay 72,000 naira. Ondo State is paying 73,000 naira. And amid this negotiation, the state governments had said they would, discuss on what they are able to pay according to their own financial might. I'd like you to speak to how some states are surpassing that. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, there are reports that some states are not, in fact, carrying along the state labor congresses and other organized labor groups in the negotiation. So what is the NLC National doing about this?
Well, first, minimum wage is not an award. It's not left for the governor to get up and say, I pay 70,000. No, it's not an award. Minimum wage usually negotiated. So it's not an award between the negotiating bodies that should deal with the wage structure. So any state that is not carrying anybody along, that state is simply saying, we are not paying the minimum wage. So that would be a different ballgame. So we'll soon collect the states who are going to implement the minimum wage and those who are not implementing the minimum wage. I mentioned earlier, yes, we like the idea that some governors have made pronouncements, or we are going to pay 70,000, like you mentioned some states, Rivers, 85,000, Enugu mentioned 80,000. But we're talking about states that have signed agreement with the consequential adjustment. Those are the people who take that have agreed on the minimum wage. Delta State have signed agreement with the table with the minimum wage at 77,000. Kebbi State have signed agreement with the consequential adjustment with the minimum wage 75,000. In fact, in their take-home case, people will start receiving the new salary wage structure today. Lagos also have even moved further to say that they will do further adjustment next year. Same with River. Outside pronouncement is those that have signed agreement for us are those that have agreed on the new minimum wage. We appreciate those who have made pronouncement, but we take it that the state has started the new minimum wage when they sign agreement with organized level.
All right, let's, Mr. Akwe, let's now take it to Mr. Mukhtar on this one as we begin to wind down. Mr. Saheed, so you said the government said they will pay at the end of the month. So I know that you had mentioned at the very beginning, what were the initial challenges that was raised by the government in terms of paying that arrears, and how do you intend to navigate that part as we wind down? Your last thoughts?
Yes, I say it's very simple arrangement. We have to write them officially, and of which they must meet with our request, and their failures to do so, we know union tactics that we have to exploit in making sure the deeds are done.
All right. Gentlemen, I must thank all of you for coming on the program. It's an important conversation. We're just trying to keep tab as to the implementation, because we know that when labor sneezes, the entire nation quakes. So as much as possible, if there are promises being made, it's not just promises, by the way, this is law. So 70,000 is now law. Whether you can or you cannot, you have to pay. Looking at how you can domesticate. We must thank you, Mr. Ochen Ekwe, Head International Relations of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Comrade Mogtala Sayenka, Chairman, Nigeria Labour Congress, Kwara, Mr. Chigemezu Nwigwu, Chairman, NLC, Imo State. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
And Jeffrey, it's just important to also mention at this point that there are reports that some states are also considering the 70,000 naira minimum wage, but are planning to implement in 2025, and that leaves much to be desired. So the NLC, the Trade Union Congress, must demand more accountability from states that are planning to begin implementation from 2025. As it is, Nigerian workers are finding it difficult to make ends meet. The earnings are certainly not taking them home. So there must be more accountability, and not just for consequential adjustment and arrears to be paid, but for a decent wage to be approved for the generality of workers at the state level as well.
Well, as we say, law is law. And when something is law, it's binding on everyone. So if they choose to do 2025, it's up to the labor unions in those particular states to stand up for their rights and make demands and ensure their demands are met. It's as simple as that. Law is law. It's been passed and is binding on all of us. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by an economist as we look at the prices and the cost of commodities, how it's impacting manufacturers as well as consumers. And it's been a recurrent lamentation. So let's find out a new perspective as to how to navigate this part. Join us again.